That was all right by Evelyn. He stabilized her mother. She no longer took pills. She no longer burned things for no reason. And, for that, Evelyn could spare him interrogation. The candles emitted pockets of warmth around her, but most of her body remained frigid. Goosebumps formed on her exposed arms, little hairs standing on end. He sprinkled water over her forehead, over her hands, and down her torso in the shape of a cross. It was cold and pooled on her skin, and he then began to pray. His prayer was barely audible, but grew louder as he continued. His eyes rolled back into his head, and he convulsed, the words rising from him like a root out of the earth, until Evelyn swore she felt the consonants vibrating her insides. It started out like a static electric charge and spread from her heart to her lungs to her womb. She could feel it vibrating, growing stronger, just like she could feel the hard wood underneath her, the smell of cow manure stinging her nostrils, the fibers of her grandmother's blanket underneath her fingernails. And then it began to burn. A fire raged inside her belly, and she panicked. The pain was immense, worse than childbirth, worse than when she'd had the miscarriage, worse even than when the doctor had told her she couldn't have any more children. It consumed her. It was eating her alive. She screamed and she writhed, but her stepfather held her down. She pushed up against him, but he was stronger than her. A scream formed inside of her chest. It grew and bubbled and was pushing out of her throat until she didn't think she could take it any more. She was going to die. She was sure of it. But then it was done. It was over faster than it had arrived, and when her stepfather was finished with his prayer, he helped her to her feet. "Rest," he said. "You're going to need your strength." 11 weeks later, her doctor told her she was pregnant. He called it a miracle. Evelyn didn't have the heart to tell him. He was more right than he knew. Chapter 2. Papa and Grandma lived in what had once been the Osage Reservation on the outskirts of Pawhuska. They'd moved there when Caleb had been very young, the family farm having gone the way most things do when given enough time, worn, decrepit, and abandoned, and so it was the only place he ever knew his grandparents to live. The neighborhood consisted of small homes, all of them identical, single-car garage, ranch style with a flat roof, storm shelter in the backyard, no trees, uncurbed streets. Papa and Grandma's house was no different. Inside it was dark, smelled of garlic, chicken noodle soup, and chores. Every time Caleb visited, he had to mow the lawn, or rake the leaves, or clean the gutters. He'd earned blisters there. He'd grown muscles. Inside it was cluttered. Caleb figured his grandmother hadn't thrown anything away ever. She had 2 pianos pushed up against the wall, old box-type things that needed to be tuned. At their legs was stacked sheet music reaching Caleb's waist. There were broken clocks and cookbooks and decades' worth of newspapers. Caleb liked to dig through these when he visited, reading news stories that had happened before he'd been born. Watergate, the moon landing, the Tet Offensive, imagining these events were happening in real time. What things would be like then. In the corner was a cracked leather chair. Papa sat there, trails of tobacco smoke leaking out of his nostrils. He typically didn't pay too much attention to Caleb when he was around, and that was all right with him. His papa scared him. He rarely spoke, and when he did, it was often one-word sentences. Rake, he'd command. Water. Shovel. Plant. Weed. Now. And Caleb knew better than to disobey. Out front was an oak tree, and if Caleb or his older brother Jonah